Trust is very, very important to me. I have been brought up in this culture all my life. So was my father, so was my grandfather. County Armagh, I think, is the biggest number of Orangemen in Northern Ireland at the moment. And thankfully, we have a lot of young new members a year, especially in this Newtownhamilton district. They have maybe 20 odd new members. The Orange Hall is all booming now with activities going. Even my own Orange Hall, which is about 3 miles down towards Keady from here in the heart of the country. We have a tennis court in, just out the road here at Tullyval, and they have a big all-weather pitch. And I believe members of the GAA from Keady is coming to use it because it's all-weather pitch.
In 2005 we were established to try and get out there, reach out to the community, make them aware of the potential of the Orange Halls and get them opened up for community use and indeed for wider community use. And we've been very successful, particularly among the border areas. I've been in the band now for about 36 years. I joined, I think it was in 1976. It's been a family tradition of ours to be in the band. My sisters were all in the band, my father was in the band, and now my son has the year joined the lodge. My other two sons, one leads the band and the other one's in the band for the first, and he's playing the triangle. Markethill is very central to a number of areas. You're only really 7 to 10 miles from most areas. About 10 miles from Keady, 7 miles from Armagh, 7 or 8 miles to Tandragee, 8 or 9 miles to Newry, so it's a fairly central area. Livestock sales would have been one of the so-called, what they would call nowadays, a neutral space, which it didn't matter which community you were from, it was attended by both communities, and whenever an animal went into the ring, nobody asked who owned it. If they liked the animal and were looking to buy an animal, they bought it. They didn't care whether it was a Protestant animal or a Roman Catholic animal. And that today is still very much the case, and would be one of the areas where a lot of, if not most of the interaction between both communities take place. There's a very significant number of Orange Halls across County Armagh. As you know, County Armagh is the birthplace of Orangeism. During the Troubles then, whenever they started, eventually with the continuing shootings and one thing or another, Protestant confidence was lost and people felt very afraid to go out at night. The activities such as dances, socials and all those things, a lot of those closed down, and effectively the steel shutters went up in the Orange Halls, and a lot of them were more or less boarded up.
Here in Carna itself, this hall was subject to 2 pipe bombs in the early 1970s and 3 arson attacks. Indeed, mostly the entire roof was burnt on 3 different occasions. One of the pipe bombs took this gable wall out behind us and it was rebuilt again. The determination was to have it fixed up, and indeed sometimes that happened as quickly as inside 3 weeks from whenever the damage took place. We're sitting here in a grand hall now and it's getting a lot of use, and as you can see, pictures and evidence in the notice boards and things is happening. This is just an example of some of the various activities here. This was a ping pong ball race, the equivalent of a dry duck race. Took place on the top of the Carrigachook Mountain on a nice sunny bright Saturday morning in May 2007. But the idea here was there was 1,000 ping pong balls. They're all numbered 1 to 1,000. Each number was sold for £1. But it was not just the fundraising aspect, it was the involvement of the youngsters and the kids. And they all come up and had a whale of a time on the top of the mountain collecting ping pong balls and chasing them down the mountainside. This was a very successful event here last August. The hall was dressed up, full facilities, tables and decorations. 100% successful wedding reception for about 60 guests here. There are 34 members in Carna Lodge, but the biggest majority of them would come from south of the border in County Monaghan. We're sitting here just a mile north of the border on the Keady-Castleblaney Road. This wee hall has been used here. It was the Land Steward's house to the Irwin Estate and was given over between 1912 and 1915 for the use of Carna Lodge as a lodge room.
You've got a number of halls who have been very successful. Confidence has been built up, and they're running a number of programs, both education and social, for the local and wider community. We have a number of senior citizens groups which would be very successful. We've also a number of groups which would be delivering activities for young people, the like of music tuition, Ulster Scots dancing, computer classes, all those type of events. Up in Newtownhamilton area, we were able to secure funding as a pilot project to run a daytime activity targeted at social isolation and in particular targeting senior citizens. Initially, the reception on the community was lukewarm to this project. A lot thought it may not be successful. From initially starting off with about 15 people, today now there's about 50 attending those. One of the interesting things is there's a number of people attending that now, and hopefully you'll see some of those today, who previous to that would never have used an Orange Hall, wouldn't have seen an Orange Hall for them, and wouldn't have been in an Orange Hall.
Today we're at Nagorgan Orange Hall, which is situated about 2 miles from the County Monaghan border and about 3 miles from Newtownhamilton in South Armagh. The hall has been refurbished over this last 8 or 9 years. Going back about 15-20 years ago, this was basically more or less a derelict building, very seldom used because of the troubles. Brings in the elderly people, senior citizens from this area who would have no other entertainment.
There was really nowhere for us to go before, and I just love dancing, and I just love to get out on a Thursday. I just really look forward to it.
I enjoy the dancing and the social life of it, you know. I work at farming myself, but I do enjoy a bit of dancing, and it's nice to see the communities all mixing together.
I'm the same as an evening out and meeting other people. We always enjoy dancing anyhow, and this is a nice wee break in the middle of the week.
There's quite a few widows here, unfortunately, you know, but yeah, they do like to get out. They do really enjoy it, you know, so it's important to have it for them as well, you know. I try to go around them all, actually, get them all, and all we dance, yeah, I do indeed.
It brings everybody together, no matter what viewpoint you have. We don't get involved in any topics of what you are, who you are. You come to the entertainment and your cup of tea.
It's like a mini band parade, yard and fete type thing. There's about 20 bands or so, and it's just people from the local community come and yes, we use it to raise money to keep the hall going and help with the silver band. And you get a lot of people who have moved down the country, maybe live, you know, maybe as far away as Carrickfergus, and they come back up here just to see family and friends. Just after the 12th of July, myself and some friends, we always went over, there's a lot of lakes around Ballybay, we always went over there fishing. And the fishing weren't biting too well, so we retired to a local hostelry. And
I think you want to tell that.
we fell in with a few girls over there, and turned out they were our sort. And I don't know, it was maybe about a year or so later, then we started going out, we met again at an Orange Hall dance over outside Markethill, County Cavan.
I didn't know anything about the troubles. We lived in the farm, and apart from going visiting, I didn't know anything about it. Troubles, or it was really only then when I started going with David.
Our troubles began.
Our troubles did begin. Well, the primary school was only half a mile down the road. We walked it, and it was a Protestant primary school belonging to the church. And then the high school was in Monaghan, the Protestant school in Monaghan, and we went in the bus. And yes, the other ones were at the other school, but you didn't question them, or we all got on. There was never any, I don't remember ever anything. My sister, I think, once was called a Jaffa walking down the street because of the school uniform.
When we were going up, the border was there. There was obviously soldiers about and police about. The mid-70s was particularly rough here. The Tullyvallen, my own lodge, just down the road there. 1975, it was shot up by the IRA, and well, actually, the IRA never claimed responsibility for it. But look, there was 5 men killed in the one night. The lodge lost 7 men in the space of 6 months, and like just around this area, other men lost their lives, and women too. My father too would have been, there was one night he was coming home from work and he had a man with him who shared the same name as another man who used to be in the B Specials. And they stopped him, and when they found, when the other man gave his name, they took him, they were going to shoot him. Only my dad, he got out and he remonstrated with them and eventually got them convinced that the man shared the same name, but he was not. This man was actually from across the border. He was actually from County Monaghan. So I remember that incident. I was maybe only 7 or 8 at the time. I can't remember. But I remember Dad coming home now, and he was shook up about it, like, But yeah, there's everybody around here has those stories, It's,
That's a very age of them. If you look at that photograph there, the middle drum of those three, that's the same drum there. That was taken away back in the first part of the 1900s. I myself, about 15 years ago, done my family 3, and we come to about 3 mile down the road there in 1627. So we're in this area almost 400 years. You feel a sense of identity. Even going to church on Sunday morning, you're sitting in the same pew, the same church that your grandfather, great-grandfather way back sat in. You go to the same hall, you take part in the same activities. It's a real sense of belonging. This drum here actually was bought for the lodge by a man down the road here, just about 2 field lengths. It was Jack Wilson, and he was going to America. And before he went to America, he bought this drum for the lodge as a gift, and it arrived from Markethill at the train station. On the morning that he emigrated, the lodge formed up at the house and drummed this drum in front of him into the station, and it drummed the platform as he went out to head for the boat for America. During the Troubles, the 3 main towns that were hit around here was Keady, Newtown and Bessbrook. Keady, there's virtually no Protestant existence in it. Newtown used to be 70% Protestant, 30% Catholic. Now it's about 75-80% Catholic, 20-25% Protestant. Bessbrook's much the same, whereas Markethill has retained its identity. And Rich Hill, Tandragee, most people who moved from the South Armagh thought that Markethill was next to fall, and they hopscotched it and moved to Hamilton, Spawn, Rich Hill, Tandragee and Portadown. They were afraid of stopping in Markethill in case the same was going to happen. So I think during the Troubles there was a mental thing in this area. The lines through were holding their ground, that's it, we're not moving. And you'll not get past here. That's my grandfather there, nothing there. My mother's father, grandfather home, he was getting on the B Specials, that's where I got the crest above it. There's an old drum there from a lodge. That drum there's about 1890 or so. All those drums up on the top are all in the 1800s, there's no modern ones. With a memorial there at Markethill with the names on, the Orange men in the area that have been shot and blew up. So it's been badly hit. And the mentality of the people are under siege. I lost several friends, yes, several good friends. And that's why there's hard, after a week goes past, you don't think about them. Around this area here, a lot of young fellas joined the UDR 19, 20, 21 with a choice what way we were going to hold the line. And a lot of people had a faith, so the paramilitaries was ruled out. It was legally that we wanted to hold the line by taking up arms, but legally to hold the line. And there was a camp up the road here about 3 miles Glenanne. I was based up there. I was in B Company, 2 UDR. But unfortunately, it was blew up. We lost 3 men that night and were moved to Armagh. I done 10 years in the part-time Ulster Defence Regiment, and I probably would have done longer, only unfortunately personal circumstances. My wife was killed, so I had to stop looking after the children. But during that time, I would have spent 24 hours a day with a pistol. It was the first thing you put in your waistband in the morning, and at night you said at the bedside locker, because the biggest threat around here was for off-duty soldiers. You were vulnerable, Out in patrol you weren't so bad, but coming home up the wee country lanes, as you see, it was easy to be ambushed, and them were encouraged to lay behind a hedge and shot, whereas they wouldn't even put a barrier on, come out and say what they stood for. They lay and they shook like rats. There's an incident one night at my own house that there was men knocking about, and my wife came out with a shotgun, let 2 shots off her, and they gave her to the house and they escaped.
I went across Midland about June '69, and you're fit to walk around across Midland on your own, do the beat, talk to people, no problem. And if there's a hour on in the dance, you're down there on your own. When I went first, sitting in the guard room, a wee man came in through the gate. I said he's maybe an old gentleman, but he's about 60, which is not that old today, but he didn't come near the front of the station, he went around the back of the station. And next thing he came out with a lawnmower. So I made inquiry, what's happening here? Oh, that's Paddy McEwen next door. Never owned a lawnmower in his life. Borrows the station mower, cuts the lawn and leaves it back. And that's the relationship there was. So once the troubles could go, and then the people were actually threatened that they couldn't. The minority ruled the majority. Big style. Shortly before I went to Daphne, there was a bomb put outside the station. It didn't go off. But they put it down as a one-off, and it didn't affect the relationship with the people in Crossmaglen. Because I've seen people leaving and I was having parties there for them maybe going away, and they've been a member of the public there. And even when the 2 men, the fact that they was blew up and killed then in 1970, there was a lot of Crossmaglen people at them funerals. We get a lot of people calling at the station with sympathy and all about that. So it hadn't the support of, I would say, the majority of people in Crossmaglen. We served all sections of the community, and we done things above board. I never wanted to shoot anybody. I was always hoping that I would have to do that. And there's something you never really want to do, you never want to keep it on you. And I say, I had 3 colleagues I worked with that actually had to do it. But it never was a subject, it never was talked about. There was no celebrations about it or anything else, and it never was part of the conversation. Actually, one man I did work with, and I'm 12 years off the job before I found out it was him that actually shot Sean South. The man's now 80 years of age. So it never was mentioned, never was talked about, never was believed. He wasn't a hero. He done what had to be done. But that's the way we're thinking. If you had to do it, you have to do it, but it wouldn't be here. It's not something you want to do. You wouldn't be called a hero for doing it. Nobody wants to take somebody else's life. Our rare breeds, the Borak, the nice coloury one, the orange one, and the black necks, they are fairly rare, but they're German, and for some reason they've only come into this country this last few years. I didn't bother them, but the wife saw them somewhere and she fancied them, so I could have those legs, put them in. My identity and my oranges is no threat to anybody. It's no threat to anybody else because we stand for civil and religious liberty for all. And as I keep telling them, I don't agree with the teachings of the Roman Catholic Church, but I should be prepared to defend their right to have it under the civil and religious liberty. Most important thing to me at the moment is to try and move this peace process forward. But to tell anybody they can bring their identity with them, they bring their culture with them, they don't have to leave it at the door, they can keep it, but respect somebody else's.
Glasnevin is sacred ground for the Irish Republic. People like Michael Collins, who are key figures, iconic figures for Ireland, are buried here within a few yards of the space where the exhibition is. I'm still not able to quite credit what I witnessed today, which was a replica of old Ulster Volunteer Force marching to the tomb where British soldiers lie buried, Irishmen, all of them. and the poppy is laid there. In fact, just a few yards away from where the men were marching with their poppies, coming down from Shankill, coming down from East Belfast, coming down from Loyalist Lurgan, there was the Irish tricolour flying.
We got no history, no Irish history. You hear a wee bit about the 36th Division, and you'd be forgiven for thinking that they won the war on their own. But it's only whenever I heard a few lectures and got involved and interested in our Irish history that I discovered that there was 50,000 died in the First World War, which maybe 2/3 of them was Roman Catholics, who was denied any recognition for it. And I discovered even that there was an old postman beside us, he retired whenever I come up. He had actually been in the 2 World Wars. And because he was a Catholic, the Catholics didn't want to know him. And because he was a Catholic, the Protestants didn't want to know him. So he was actually nobody when he came back after fighting in 2 wars. It's great to be able to come down here and walk about the streets of Dublin with your poppy up and nobody passing remarks. In fact, I've been down here a couple of times before the Gallipoli service, walking through the streets of Dublin with my RUC blazer on. And nobody has said anything to me, nobody has passed any remarks. In fact, I think you're better off here than it would be in Armagh, because the people in Dublin wants to move on more so than the people in Armagh. And to meet people and talk to people, it's easier talking to them south of the border than it is at home, because we have all that baggage to get rid of yet.
Many of the folk that still attend would have known Trevor, Paul's dad, very fond memories of him. Even at a memorial service that was held for him in April of this year to mark the anniversary, there was lovely tributes paid to the very clear Christian testimony that his dad has. And Paul is following in his father's footsteps.
Now, just before we move on to what I want to speak because I spent a lot of my childhood at those sort of youth meetings, I thought it would be nice to get involved and to serve God in this way. I consider Armagh Free Presbyterian Church as my spiritual home on this side of heaven. 30 years ago, when my father was taken for us, you know, my father walked through those church doors one Sunday, and then the following Sunday he actually was carried in his coffin. And I mean, it means an awful lot to me to be involved in this church because of those things. London has probably been the pinnacle of my marching career. With all the poppies in our hats, you know, it's something special when the Metropolitan Police are working 200 yards in front of you, cordon the whole of Whitehall off for your band to walk in, pay your respects for 2 minutes, and then walk past. And it was an unreal experience. In fact, there were some of our guys that had come to me and told me at the end that they had a tear in their eye. We have 22, 23 drummers, 45 flutes, 13 girls in the colour party, and about 4 or 5 drum majors, 4 or 5 bass drums. So it's a great passion for a lot of the guys that are in it. In fact, a lot of the members would consider the band just to be a big family. Would consider the members, and it's often been referred to as the band of brothers. The local minister, the Rev Macmillan, came up to Killeen Orange Hall. My father was a member of Killeen Pipe Band, a member of Kildarton Lodge. He was a drummer with the Royal Irish Rangers Pipe Band. So there's a big drumming connection there, and that's why the drumming's been passed from my father, even from my grandfather to my father to me to my wee lads interested in drumming. The whole family, the Elliott family and the Bingham family, all joined with us. We had perhaps about 200 people, and we dedicated the drum. And you know something? More than anything, see that drum? It seems to have brought a great sense of pride and perhaps a little bit of closure
part of Markethill they grew up in was the mixed area. I had a lot of Catholic friends. I've walked along with Catholics all my life. Even every 12th we prayed down Newry Street. There's a few Catholics live down there, and there's a few come out and call them by name and wave at them on the way past and tell you to have a good day. So I think the ordinary decent Catholic understands that the orange are the... If I'm working and doing 60 or 70 hours a week at work and working hard, and I walk down Markethill Street to the shop, I'm no different to walking down the 12th morning with sash on. I'm still the same orange man with sash on or sash off. And I have no animosity against Roman Catholics, but I'm prepared to defend my right to remain British. But the vast majority of Roman Catholics from Markethill would not, have a problem with that.
Me and the cub were up at my 9-year-old son. We were up to the rugby on Saturday, Ireland-Wales, and I was thinking about it. When you go abroad, you're Irish, north or south, but we were able to cheer on Ireland at a rugby match. And it was just something I was thinking about coming home. I, until very recently, apart from the rugby, always hesitated saying that I'm Irish. And I started to think, why would I hesitate? And whenever I think the whole thing through, the IRA drove the Irishness out of me.
I was actually talking to a woman the other day. She'd lived in the area for over 20 years. Where she lives could be termed as a rural interface. There was a road she hadn't walked on in that 20 years to the other day. She had never had the confidence to walk on that road because that was walking up into another community, an area which she hadn't been in. She'd never even driven on the road, which, it just brings home to you the amount of work that still needs to be done. And while you hear in urban areas about interfaces, there's a lot of rural interfaces as well. They mightn't be easily recognised, but they're still there in people's minds.
I had the grim task of lifting pieces of bodies and putting them in plastic bags. And as I kept saying, it doesn't matter whether they're Protestant pieces or Catholic pieces. It didn't come any easier. And that's one of the reasons I would like to see the thing moving forward, that we can't go back to that happens to people. And definitely that sticks with you. That never leaves you. Them sights comes back to you time and time and again. And you think about that, and you think the suffering that people have had to go through for no reason really at all, for somebody's wild idea that they were going to change the world. But the world's still there, and them deaths was unnecessary.
At the match there, like me and Caleb had no problem roaring on Ireland, and it was a good victory over the Welsh. But it's the only time that I feel Irish. And I think, and when I sit back and analyse it and try to think my way through it, I can't get over the troubles. I can't get over what I've seen happening in this country in the name of Ireland. And that will probably be with me to my dying day, and probably subconsciously the rest of my generation on the Protestant side.